down these wells. The state of New Mexico very thoughtfully moved to limit the number of injections. The reason specifically I note that thoughtfully is because the industry and research has demonstrated a fairly clear correlation between that practice of well injection, wastewater injection, to increased risk of seismicity.
Member Long, you still have the floor. Member Montoya.
I just wanted to see if Russell had anything to add, or if she had any comments, because I respect when she.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Treasurer Montoya. I'm here to answer questions. Our board is prepared to act on its final resolution to issue the bonds at the end of this month, which would put us on the timeline to issue bonds on December 3rd or 4th. That is the estimated timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Cassidy.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I had asked a question about the likelihood of a successful financing, understanding that this is a best efforts underwriting. Can you just give us some assurance? Because at the end of December, we're going to have to reallocate this again. And I think it's important, from my standpoint, that you complete it before that. Otherwise, you're going to be competing against with multifamily housing and other really necessary needs for the state as well. Just, I think we're aware of that, guys on the team. But just give us a sense, and thank you for having Mr. Weiss in front.
Mr. Chair and Member Cassidy, thank you very much for the question. We are extremely confident that we are going to accomplish everything that we've noted here and some. We've been very pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, I don't think that's the right word, but there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for this project. I think the underscore of picking up not just an equity partner, but the right equity partner, an equity partner that is well-versed in water projects and industrial projects, has really kind of cut their teeth in helping build out long-term sustainability projects up and down the Houston ship channel. They emphasize long-term growth capital. This was a tremendous boon for us, and an alignment of philosophies and really worldviews and what Infinity and Enchantment projects are trying to get accomplished here in the state. To answer your question very succinctly, we're very confident that the sale of the bonds will be successful. The equity partners have also expressed interest in the bonds themselves, and I'd let Mr. Weiss speak to that, but also in Wells Fargo's confidence in marketing and taking these bonds to market.
Thank you. I do have a follow-up question, but I'm not sure Mr. Weiss had a comment.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard Weiss, Wells Fargo. Been doing this for a long time. This is very much a type of project that we look to be an underwriter on from a number of perspectives. One, you have strong parties that they've entered into contracts with, as Mr. Dyson mentioned, with the need for water in the region, environmental benefits of this project, the fact that this technology is proven, and they have, in terms of construction risks, it's relatively low. The major issues, the high yield tax exempt market, pretty much all the boxes are checked with respect to this project financing. On top of that, we have a market right now that is desperately looking for these types of bonds. What we call the high yield market, there's a lot of inflows coming into the tax exempt high yield bond funds. This will be sold to qualified institutional buyers, not retail, very sophisticated bond funds that will look at these types of projects, and they're in need of these types of investments. And we think this bond issue fits the type of securities they'll be looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Sure.
Just one follow-up question, if I could, Mr. Chair. What ratings are you expecting from Moody's, or are you just looking for a designation of sustainability?
If I may, Mr. Chair and Member Cassidy, thank you again for the question. We have engaged Moody's around a sustainability conversation. And so very specifically, the conversation is whether or not this project would classify for an industry first blue bond rating.
Thank you. So you're not, no credit ratings anticipated.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'm non-rated there. Thank you.
That's right.
That's all. Yeah.
Thank you, member Cassidy. Anything further from staff? Thank you. Is your consultant, going to say anything, or does she wish to say anything?
Happy to, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have had the fortune of representing Infinity since 2021. I helped in passing the 2019 Produced Water Act. There is a significant need for addressing water in southeastern New Mexico. As our chief executive officer mentioned, we're moving away from disposal because we've recognized that that's just not the best place. We're also moving into a place where you're hoping to get not one use out of a drop of water, but multiple uses out of a drop of water. And I think projects like this are the main reason why we are looking to solutions like this to address southwestern drought. And so, like I said, it's a fortune to represent this company and to be before this board and putting some of these projects into a place where New Mexico can help get them off the ground is really important because they are revolutionary, but the technology and the support is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a side note, I think you're very fortunate to have a consultant like her, by the way, just so you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely agree.
With that, any other questions or comments by committee members? Do we have a motion to adopt, item number 30?
So
We have a motion to adopt item number 30 by member Cassidy and second by member Lujan. I feel uncomfortable asking.
It is.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You got to do pass.
Thank you all
luck.
very much.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Mark with my phone.
Thank you.
Item number 31.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, item number 31 is a request coming from staff. It's a consideration of the sole source contract with American Express and delegation to staff to incorporate changes resulting from final negotiations. We've included in your board packets a clean as of now copy, as well as the red line copy we have been negotiating with American Express. This is on page 1881 of your board packets. We are near the completion of negotiations with American Express for a contract to allow state agencies to accept American Express card payments. We've held a contract with American Express for a very long time, and it has been an addendum to the fiscal agent agreement since at least 2016. We are also seeking delegation of authority to finalize the negotiations. The existing contract expires on December 1st, and signatures, especially on the American Express side, can take time to obtain following approval of the board. So we're bringing this forward with basically a 90% completed negotiated contract, but approval to delegate to finalize that with some, minor non-substantive changes moving forward, which I'm confident in. And Blaine, board counsel, and I have been involved in these negotiations. We have one more meeting with American Express. What we're negotiating really right now is substantially unchanged from the contract that we have currently. We are proposing a term of 6 years. We've historically done 4, but we are requesting a policy exemption from DFA's state controller for that, which I believe he is supportive of. But what that would allow us to do is line this up with the fiscal agent agreement. This contract is an addendum to that. So we would negotiate a new American Express contract just shortly after the next fiscal agent agreement comes forth in 2030. American Express has been amenable to making the changes to ensure that this contract is not substantially different than what we have right now. They are currently obtaining approvals for certain provisions that are already existing. They have to run them up the chain at the company for those approvals, but we're confident we'll get those. This contract would begin on December 1st, which is the date that the current contract would expire. Staff will report in November on the final contract provisions, should there be anything significant to mention. So again, we are asking for approval of the contract with the delegation to finalize negotiations and make needed changes resulting from those negotiations. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ashley. Questions or comments? Member Montoya.
I would just ask if you could add in Steve Marsico on the bottom of page 11, with your signature.
Sure.
They're close. Motion to approve.
Any other questions or comments? In the same, we have a motion to adopt item number 31 by member Montoya, a second by member Cassidy. I'm gonna ask to call the roll. Is she still there?
I think she is.
I'm here. I'm here. I haven't left.
There you
Treasurer,
go.
Treasurer Montoya,
Yeah.
Member Sanchez,
Yes.
Member Cassidy,
Yes.
Member Luhan.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Thank you very much. That makes me feel a lot better, by the way. Okay, the last item on the agenda, item number 32.
Good afternoon,
Marcus.
Mr. Chairman, board members. It's good to see you guys. I know it's been a long morning, so I won't take up too much more of your time, but I did want to just follow up with some of the requests and do a high-level PAB or private activity bond program overview. You guys will find a slide deck that I put together in your board materials under page 1926. Over the last few months, or I would say over the last few years, we've been getting a lot of interest or attention with the New Mexico Private Activity Bond Program. And what I've kind of discovered through some research that I've done is I think our program kind of falls in line with what the rest of the nation is doing and putting their volume cap to type of projects like New Mexico, which are housing projects. It's been really hard to find national data. There's two sources that put out statistics for all the different states across the country and the private activity bond programs. What I found through that research is one data source that I found has pretty outdated information through 2020, which was the only source that I was able to kind of do some kind of comparative data on what New Mexico is doing to other states that receive similar volume cap. The way the volume cap is distributed across the country is based on a formula multiplier, and it's driven primarily by the population, which is imposed by federal mandates or the IRS. New Mexico falls in a category with 4 other states where they receive pretty much the minimum of what the formula calculation is. And to put in perspective, for 2024, New Mexico, along with Nebraska, Maine, South Carolina, and Montana, received $378 million in volume cap that they could distribute throughout their state. The Board of Finance is tasked with that responsibility in New Mexico. Primarily based on historical activity in the state, we focused on programming that each year in multifamily housing projects or single-family initiatives across the state, which we all know is a huge need across the state. As we heard a few moments ago, there are other types of projects that fall in line with qualifying for this type of private activity bond program. As far as this water enchantment project that you guys just heard about, which I think is drumming up a lot of attention in the PAB program in New Mexico, which is gonna eventually, I believe, make our program more of a competitive type structure right now. And historically, it's been a first come, first serve in how those requests have been treated and the allocation has been distributed. I believe really quickly, we're gonna be approaching where I think the PAB subcommittee and this board is gonna be tasked with trying to figure out how we're gonna move projects forward. Everything that I've been hearing over the last couple of months is there's a lot of need and a lot of requests, a lot of new developers that are making their way into New Mexico. Some of the bordering states like Arizona and Colorado have been applying or utilizing their volume cap in the same fashion as New Mexico. Colorado programs about 60% of their volume cap primarily for housing initiatives. And I think because they're running out of resources, a lot of those developers are starting to come into New Mexico to try and help with some of the housing issues that we've been faced with. In your board materials on slide 6, I believe it is, or page 1930, you will see a graph that kind of compares some 2020 data with the states that I mentioned that fall in line with how they receive the same amount of volume cap, and also the 2 neighboring border states that I decided to include just to give some perspective. And I'll throw out some percentages just so you guys can kind of see visually how we fall in line with those other states. Maine in 2020 received the base minimum of volume cap, and they programmed about 38% of what they received for multifamily projects. About 60% of that went towards their single family program. Montana programmed about 35% in 2020 for multifamily and about 30% in single family or mortgage credit certificates. New Mexico was a little bit higher. We had about 65% that we used towards multifamily housing and about 23% in single family. But I will point out, these amounts don't include carry forward that is brought back into the system, where New Mexico actually rolls that into the single family program that's administered by the Housing of New Mexico or the Mortgage Finance Authority. Nebraska and South Dakota don't have any percentage that they apply towards multifamily. The reason why is I think they distribute their allocation differently, where they don't program it for any one category at the beginning of the year when the IRS releases that. As requests are coming in, they're programming that and allocating it towards those projects one off. What I have found in more recent years is in 2024, those two states did fall back in line where their planning initiatives all go towards housing. It's just the way they distribute the volume cap that's a little bit different than New Mexico does put out. I also included a national chart that looks like this, and I apologize, it's so small, but this is for 2024, and this kind of just outlines how most of the volume cap across the country is going to help assist for housing initiatives. So I just wanted to put, some slides to you in front of you guys and give you guys information that New Mexico isn't kind of an outlier. How we've been administering the PAV program is falling in line with surrounding states and also those states that receive the same amount of volume cap. And I know I went through that really quickly, but it's been a long morning, so I'll stop to see if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Michael. That was really informative, actually, and the charts.
Thank you.
Right on. Any comments or questions by committee members?
If I could just real quickly, thank you, Marcus. Agree with the chair. Do you see the need for any state law changes on the allocation process?
Mr. Chairman and Member Cassidy, I think we probably need to start having those conversations as the PAV program attracts more attention and there's more interest. I think it's gonna be problematic for the board and how to move one or the other type project forward. And I think getting buy-in from the legislature and all the policymakers to see how the best use of this program would be is very important to the state and to the board. So I would suggest it. I don't know if Director Leach has anything to add.
No, Mr. Chair, I think Marcos hit it spot on. I mean, we do want to relook at our rule as well. But we do need to kind of start thinking a little bit ahead of the game. I mean, we haven't historically, as Marcos mentioned and presented, have had a lot of competition in this outside of housing, but we are starting to see more activity even in housing, and it's going to shift fundamentally, I think, how the board is making decisions on this cap allocation. So nothing more to add, but Marcos did a great job.
Anything, anyone? Thank you very much. With that, before closing, again, I want to thank the board for their questions and their thoughtfulness in terms of the presenters, and always a thank you to staff for such a terrific job you guys do. You lay it all out for us, and it's easier for us to ask the questions with your knowledge instead of maybe not so much knowledge on my part. And Wayne, thank you for being here, of course. With that, we have a motion to adjourn. That one I'll go out. All in favor, signify by saying aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.